Appreciate everybody for coming. Good evening. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. There are agendas on the city website for anybody who needs them. All items appearing on the consent agenda are voted on in motion and vote. Generally, these items are routine in nature and do not require discussion. All items listed under unfinished business, or new business are voted on separately. First, councilors will be given an opportunity for questions or comments. Once councilors have had an opportunity to speak, citizens will be given an opportunity for comments or questions. Citizens must speak and identify themselves. Each citizen will be allowed one opportunity to speak and will be limited to 3 minutes. Finally, councilors will be given another opportunity to speak or comment. Citizens who would like to speak on a topic that does not appear on tonight's agenda will have an opportunity to do so at the end of the meeting under the public comment section of the agenda. And getting started with unfinished business. Do I have a motion for a consent agenda?
We're going to do the pledge, Jay.
What was that?
Before we,
Go ahead.
yeah, we need to do the Pledge of Allegiance first.
That wasn't on my cheat sheet. And I
I'm
knew
very sorry.
that's fine.
Generally, we have Councilor Foss lead the pledge because he has a flag in the background.
Oh, so we can see him. Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Now that we got that one out of the way. See, there's going to be a snafu in there at least.
That's okay. And now we'll need to administer the oaths of office to the 3 newly elected councilors. And I would just note that the mayor took his oath of office this afternoon at City Hall. So congratulations, Mayor Coelho. So if I may, Mayor, I will start with Councilor Oliveira.
Please do.
Councilor Oliveira, can you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Flavia Oliveira,
I, Flavia Oliveira,
do swear that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
to the best of my abilities
to the best of my abilities
the duties incumbent on me
the duties incumbent on me
as a duly elected member
as a duly elected member
of the Waterville City Council.
Of the Waterville City Council.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilor Green, if I could ask you to please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Rebecca Green.
I, Rebecca Green.
Do affirm.
Do affirm.
That I will faithfully discharge.
That I will faithfully discharge.
To the best of my abilities.
To the best of my abilities.
The duties incumbent on me.
The duties incumbent on me.
As a duly elected member.
As a duly elected member.
Of the Waterville City Council.
Of the Waterville City Council.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilor Frankie, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Claude Frankie.
I, Claude Frankie.
Do swear.
Do swear.
That I will faithfully discharge.
That I will faithfully discharge.
To the best of my abilities.
To the best of my abilities.
The duties incumbent on me.
The duties incumbent on me.
As a duly elected member.
As a duly elected member.
Of the Waterville City Council.
Of the Waterville City Council.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Congratulations. Mayor Coelho, we're now on to the election of a council chair.
All right. So, councilors.
You can call for nominations and see if we get more than one.
So do we have any nominations for council chair? Rebecca?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Eric Thomas for chair.
Seconded.
Second.
there another name? Hearing none, looks like Eric is chair.
I must take a roll call vote because
Yeah.
we're on Zoom, so all the votes tonight have to be by roll call, Mayor.
All right.
So
Well,
if I can proceed.
Sure
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Oliveira,
Yes.
Councilor Klepak,
Yes.
Councilor Green,
Yes.
Councilor Foss,
Yes.
Councilor Frankie,
Yes.
Councilor Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
we ready for the consent agenda, Patty?
We're actually on to the disclosure of conflict of interest.
Gotcha.
So are there any members of the council that have a conflict of interest with any items on the agenda tonight? I see Councilor Foss. Would you like to recognize Councilor Foss, Mayor?
Councilor Foss?
Let me pull it up here, 17, Resolution 17, 2021. The conflict is my wife is on the list of nominees. How would you like to proceed?
I don't find that to be a conflict. Maybe somebody else does. If they do, they can bring it up, but I'm not really sure. I mean, you're not devoid.
Bill's got something to
Billy,
say.
Sure. I think what you should do is just separate out that nomination from the others, because it is a conflict for Mr. Foss to be able to vote on his a nomination involving his spouse.
They're married now. That's right.
That will allow him to vote on all the others.
So you can vote on everything else except for the one appointment. So do we motion to separate Rebecca out?
When we get,
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to separate out that category of persons from the approval of people for the boards. I note that that's
Fair Hearing Authority.
that was the Fair Hearing Authority.
yes.
Yep.
We should wait until that item comes up to make motions on that, however.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yep.
With that.
So are
Any
there
other
any other conflicts of interest on tonight's agenda? No. Now we're on to approval of the consent agenda.
Do I
So
have-
moved.
There we go. Thank you, Rick.
So
Is
was
there
there
a second?
a second?
Second.
Shall I do a roll call, Mayor?
Yes, please.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Oliveira,
Yes.
Councilor Klepak,
Yes.
Councilor Green,
Yes.
Councilor Foss,
Yes.
Councilor Frankie,
Yes.
Councilor Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
So we are now on to approval of consent agenda, unfinished business, resolution 260, 2020.
I would make a motion to take the entire agenda by title only.
I'll second that.
Shall I do a roll call, Mayor?
Roll call, yes.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Councilor Oliveira,
Yes.
Councilor Klepak,
Yes.
Councilor Green,
Yes.
Councilor Foss,
Yes.
Councilor Frankie,
Yes.
Councilor Thomas.
Yes.
Vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Any comment?
Okay, so we're on to resolution 260, a resolution providing for hiring a consultant to advise the city on solar energy issues.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion from the council? Eric?
Mike, where are we on this? Are we ready to vote? We had delayed this because I think there was going to be some more discussion. Are we going to table it again?
No, I certainly hope not, because we did spend quite a bit of time over the last month or 3 weeks interviewing two different firms to provide this consulting service. Fortunately, Councilors Frankie and Green were able to join us. It was Sarah, my office, myself, Paul Costangwe. So the 5 of us interviewed CES again, and also interviewed Next Era Energy. We had a third interview scheduled, Eric, but that third company decided not to proceed any further. So after interviewing both of them and discussing it further, I know that we're unanimous in our feeling that the city should go forward and hire this service because of the real question of net energy billing credits and the opportunity for the city to take advantage of it.
Can I just say, anyone who's not speaking and has other people in the background, just make sure you're muted.
And I know that Councilor Frankie had something he wanted to add.
Councilor Frankie?
Well, I just want to comment that the way that solar and other renewable energy is growing by leaps and bounds, particularly here in Maine, and the variety of different programs involved in that makes it that it's very complicated to figure out exactly what you need to do. And I think the city would benefit from having a consultant to help us get through the weeds and figure out what the best way forward is.
Rick?
Rick?
You're muted.
Thank you. Mike, on the billing side of it, am I right in the way that I read that they make 10% on our savings?
That is correct.
And for how many years?
Well, I think through the term of the agreement that we'll sign, the net energy billing agreement that we'll sign with whomever we end up with. So I'm not sure that we know at this point, Rick, how long the term is. The first $2,500 of that 10% fee they collect will come back to us. So our net cost is going to be $2,500 for the consulting services. We're signing a contract that says it'll be $5,000. But if we enter into a net energy billing credit arrangement and receive credits, savings, they will take their first $2,500 in the 10% fee and apply it towards the $5,000 that we would pay them. So I think actually we're only paying $2,500 up front, and the second $2,500 does not get paid if we enter into a credit program where we get savings.
So the way I understand this is the contracts hasn't changed any from the last time we talked and tabled it. We were talking about these same numbers back then, and we were all worried, we were all talking about how much money we were going to be handing over at the 10% level, and nothing's changed. Am I correct in saying that?
That's right. Nothing's changed since that first discussion, Rick.
Okay.
They did supply a listing of what they do to earn the 10%, and I can certainly send that to all of you, a detailed accounting of what it is, what they do. Yes, they're charging us the same percent that they charge the Waterville School Department, Colby, Bowdoin, LL Bean, and a number of other, City of Portland. So this company provides consulting to a lot of different organizations.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Klepak.
And just to refresh my memory, please, what is the scale, the dollar amount scale that we're talking about here? So it's 10% of what are the projected savings that the city is looking at? Or is it possible to get that?
I don't have any recollection that anybody came up with that number. If Claude or Rebecca have any, I don't think we ever got that far. Rebecca, did we come into that discussion?
I don't think so, because it's dependent on the size of our bill, our
Right.
energy bill, because these savings are based on our energy liability, if you will. We can't, and one of the services that CES is providing is to make sure that we're not getting into an agreement that is beyond the scope of what our energy bill is, so that we can't take advantage of it. So they don't have all the information on our energy bill, and therefore they couldn't provide that. But I believe that Waterville School District is expecting to save $60,000 a year, and they would get $6,000. So that's the kind of scale we're talking about.
Right. That is the same number I heard from the school department.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does our energy usage compare, for example, to the Waterville School District?
We would be more for sure because of the streetlight component.
So an order of magnitude or 2 orders of magnitude?
No, I'm sorry, Tom. I don't have that kind of I'd just be guessing, and I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The city does have a couple of places where it uses a lot of electricity, such as the police department and the Quarry Road, some of the other city operations. So we're probably using more electricity than the schools, but since there's quite a few schools, it might not be that much more. It's probably pretty close, Tom.
I just wanted to know what the scale of the numbers we were talking about was.
Any other questions from the council? Any questions from the public?
Yes.
Go ahead, Phil.
Thank you. So the last time we probably spoke about this item, it was under the assumption that we will involve the solar committee so we can review this. We can work with the city to try to help, bring about hopefully something that will be acceptable by everybody. Unfortunately, yesterday is the last time that we heard from the city manager as a group, and it's unfortunate because it looks like Councilor Foss pointed, nothing really changed from the last time that we talked, and the hardworking men and women of the solar committee were also left out. And I'm especially disappointed at Councilor Frankie, who is a member of the solar committee and did not care to involve the hardworking member of our team in this discussion. We are a group who have been advocating for solar in this community. We brought the deals to the city, and we have people who work for free, who don't charge 10% to the city. And I believe that in this type of instance, we should involve the people who are willingly putting their time and effort forward to serve the city freely without any percentage. I still think the 10%, we should not be spending money that we have without exploring every avenue that we can in order for us to provide a service, to provide a service without having to spend money. It seems like we keep doing this thing where we get a little bit of money and we start spending it before we even accumulate enough to reduce our overall budget. So again, nothing really has changed, and the solar committee was not involved. And I still believe that this item should go through the solar committee. They should be working with the city so that we can leverage all the expertise of the hardworking men and women of the solar committee and come up with something that makes sense for the city. Thank you.
Now, I'll ask this to the councilors only because of what Phil just brought up, but we're not buying solar. We're essentially hiring a firm that specializes in saving us money. And while they save us money, we're going to be giving out a percentage of savings. So if we save $100,000, they get $10,000. That's a net positive of $90,000, let's say, for that year that relieves the taxpayers. Am I correct?
Yeah.
That's the way I understand it. I mean, Mike, please.
Right. No, I think that's exactly a good explanation. Just for the record, I did send an email to the solar committee yesterday afternoon. It was late yesterday afternoon, and it is late in the process, but the solar committee knew from the beginning that we had formed this smaller group 3 weeks ago to look more comprehensively into the whole net energy billing credit and program. And we'd be making a big mistake if we don't take advantage of getting into that net energy billing credit program at this time. There's a good reason.
We're not the only municipality, right, Mike? I mean, you said Portland.
No. Portland, and I'm sure there are many other communities that are doing that. Our intention, as we talked as a small working group over the last 2 weeks, was once we hired CES, asked the council to hire CES, we would then work with the solar committee to provide the answers to them and everyone else about how that net energy billing credit works. I think there are 4 major questions. The net energy billing credit, number 1. Number 2, where do we purchase our electricity in the future? That's a very important question the solar committee, I know, wants to know. Number 3, how do our residents take advantage of the net energy billing program? I don't think anyone knows how individual homeowners can do that. And the 4th thing is, do we want to talk about installing solar facilities on any city building? Do we want to play some kind of role in a solar farm in the future? But all we did as a small working group was to look at one issue, net energy billing credits.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Any other comments from the public? Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry, Councilor Klepak.
Well, my question was, what is the term of this consultancy contract with CEP here? Or CES, pardon me.
I think it's coincidental with the agreement that we would end up signing for the net energy billing program. So, and I'm not sure what that term would be, Tom, for that agreement.
I'm not sure we've come up with that number yet. Okay. Councilor Green?
I believe the terms for the net energy billing credit agreements are 20 years. That's
Okay.
part of the legislation. So, and there could be more than one agreement in my understanding. I just wanted to the point that nothing has changed. I just want to say that the one thing that's changed is we've had a chance to get a lot more information about the benefit of this opportunity, and that it is much more complex than anyone on the city staff or council or solar committee has the capacity for. So I'm all for involving the solar committee in issues going forward, but that became pretty clear that we are going to only benefit from these savings with the help of a consultant.
I believe you're
Yeah,
right. Thomas?
Well, I'll just echo, I think, what Tom and Rebecca said, which is that, I think we have limited capacity in city staff. And obviously this isn't their area of expertise. So I see an advantage in engaging with a consultant who does this for lots of different people. I think the role for the solar committee will be moving forward to engage with this consultant to sort of review the things that they're bringing forward as suggestions for us or deals that may be on the table. So hopefully there will be a way for the solar committee to be involved moving forward, or perhaps they should have been more involved up to this point. I'm not involved on the committee. That's a judgment for others. But I certainly don't see any downside into getting into this agreement.
No, I mean, I agree. And I think that, I think that, Phil has a valid point. As the chair of the solar committee, someone should have reached out to him and said, we're having this meeting, whether that was Mike or Claude or who was another member of the solar committee, I believe. So like, I think, Phil has a right to be like, hey, how come I wasn't involved? And he absolutely should have been, in my opinion.
Councilor Klepak and then Councilor Foss.
Another question that I have is, Bill, have you taken a look at the contract itself? What are so we're signing on potentially to 20 years here, as Rebecca said. What's the language around renegotiating the fees? Like how will that? Yeah, is there any leeway on their side or on the city side for, say, 10 years down the line, the economics of the whole thing changes in some way?
I believe the contract, the term on that 10% is fixed. That's not something that either party has the right to say, we want to renegotiate this. And of course, the way it's set up, if we save money, we don't pay unless we save money.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And regarding the question about term, on this agreement that I sent to everyone, on the first page, item 2, it says the term of this agreement shall begin and shall continue for the term of each agreement entered into by the city. So when the city enters into an agreement for the net energy billing credit, that commences the term of this agreement, and it's tied to whatever term we agreed to for that net energy billing.
Councilor Foss, you had your hand up. Nope.
I'm good.
All right, Patty, can I get a roll call on this?
Rebecca's got something.
Oh, sorry.
Just one more thing. I think that it's important for people to know is that there will be a service provided throughout the contract, which is to audit the energy payments, make sure that we are getting credit for the energy generated, and a whole list of other services that, again, are beyond the scope of our staff, but that are important in ensuring that we get the full value out of the contract. So it's not just a skim off the top. It's actually a service that's going to be conducted throughout.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Phil, before we go for a roll call.
Yeah, so I just want to ask the member of the council if anybody on the council received information as to how we went from negotiating a contract with the solar committee and the developer that was putting in a solar facility in Waterville, negotiating a substantial rate a decrease from that developer, to now not having that developer providing the energy to the city of Waterville at a discounted rate, for now the city of Waterville hiring somebody else to go and purchase electricity somewhere else. I mean, I did the developer. He kind of gave me an insight as to why that happened. I still didn't see any details as far as why we shifted from the deal that we'd made with Synergy to now going around and looking at other avenue of purchasing electricity from somebody else. And I wonder if anybody on the council received that information as to why we shifted from the deal with Synergy to something else.
Councilor Green?
We haven't shifted. We haven't purchased any power yet from Synergy or anyone else, to my understanding. We've simply engaged with someone to help us find both the best deal on purchasing power for the city and also getting our net energy billing credit, which is basically a discount that doesn't have anything to do with our energy cost. It's simply, and this is one thing that I didn't know going into this either, but this is separate from actually energy purchased, and it's separate from excess energy generated on the grid. It's a credit for using sustainable energy that we purchase from a developer, and it's separate from our own energy agreement.
All right.
Does that answer your question, Phil?
Well,
Because I think it's a good one. I think there's so many things going on with solar that are very different. So it's important to make sure we understand what we're talking about.
No, I understand the difference between the net energy credit, and actual consumption. As a chair of the solar committee, when our group got together, we specifically negotiated the deal with Synergy on the rate per kilowatt hours. and that was a substantial savings for the city in itself. We agreed for the developer to retire the net energy credits themselves, and the city would not retire the net energy credit. That was another reason why we were able to get a discounted rate of electricity per kilowatt from that developer. So again, my question is, why are we shifting? Because it is a shift. It is a shift from something that was negotiated early on with the net energy credit that the city could have retired or let the developer retire and also get the savings per kilowatt on electricity consumption. And now we are not doing that with Synergy. We are going and looking elsewhere for that to happen, because most likely the net energy credit are associated with how much electricity the city consumes, right? And how much clean energy the city consumes. And the city already, through the solar committee, already had a deal that would get us to consume our electricity as a clean energy form and also have the option to retire the net energy credit or let the developer of our site retire the net energy credits. And I'm just curious again, did anybody on the council got that information as to why that particular deal that the solar committee negotiated was not completely followed, and we have shifted away from it?
If there's something you want to tell us, it sounds like there's something you want to tell us, Phil. So why do we, let's stop.
I'm a city manager, I'm not a counselor. What I'm doing is basically saying that there's been a lack of involvement of constituents who are put their time and effort forward to do good work for the city. They work for free.
So I'm not sure that these two things are mutually exclusive. I'm not sure that what the city is looking to enter into is going to preclude you from finishing what you want to do.
No, I'm not worried about myself. I'm not worried about myself.
I'm not talking about you in general, but the group. I'm not sure that this precludes you from doing, or us in the future building a solar farm where we would get that energy anyway.
What it does, it gets spend money that
Mike has his hand up.
I would like to respond to the allegation.
Please do.
That there's a switch. There is no switch, Phil. The company that we're talking about employing does not sell electricity. All they sell are their consulting services. What they're going to help us decide is, should we go back to Synergy and buy some power from them? The deal with Synergy is not closed by any way, shape, or form. When I found out, when Synergy, you remember their per kilowatt price was 6.6 cents, right? Yeah. You remember that? Well, we're currently paying 5.6 cents through main power options. And so when I realized that, I said, wait a minute.
The price was
We're currently paying 5.6 cents. Just let me finish. I just have another minute.
All right.
We've gone on a long time. There's no switch. The deal with Synergy is in no way done. We need help understanding all of this.
I just want to clarify the price per kilowatt, it was less, it was 0.6 cents, right? It's 0.6.
And main power options is 0.56.
Yeah, okay.
All right. We've spoke a lot on this. Patty, can I get a roll call, please?
Can't hear you, Patty.
Patty, you're muted.
Sorry, my dog is barking in the background. Council Morris?
Yes.
Council Oliveira?
Yes.
Council Klepak?
Yes.
Council Green?
Yes.
Councilor Foss?
No.
Councilor Frankie?
Yes.
Councilor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 1 opposed.
Moving on to Order 286, 2020.
An order providing for amendment to Order 65-2019 solar site lease.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any comments from the council?
Mike's got something.
Well, I'd like to ask you to postpone this item. This has to do with the HEP Energy 5 megawatt facility. They have an existing lease with the city for that site. They came forward and said, we'd like to amend that existing lease, which of course requires our approval. Bill Lee and I worked with HEP Energy over the last month regarding the terms, trying to negotiate some better terms on behalf of the city for that site. They asked for it to be postponed tonight because they're not quite ready to say we're okay with the terms on the lease that you folks are proposing.
Move to table.
Second.
Until when?
Next regularly scheduled meeting.
I think it should be. Hopefully by then they will have their picture a little bit more clear.
Claude, do you want to fix your table motion?
Till the next scheduled meeting.
Second.
Pat, can I get a roll call on that?
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Oliveira,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Foss,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Finished business order 275, 2020.
Approving tax increment financing district Colby Main Street properties and related development plan.
Move to adopt.
Second.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this to the next scheduled meeting.
Can we wait on that for just a second?
Yes, we can, Eric. Thank you.
I just, before we table it, so we have a chance for people to chime in, I just want to update you, and Mike can maybe fill in the details here, but we had a meeting. It was myself, Mike, Steve, Councilor Frankie, and our TIF attorney, Jim Safian. We're just working out some details. I think the road that we're going down basically is trying to earmark a good chunk of this money for roads and sidewalks. We had a good discussion about that. One of the things that actually came out of that meeting, which surprisingly Mike and I think didn't even know this, is that you can, in any given year, if you find you have an excess of TIF funds, but you have a shortage of general fund money, you can, on a yearly basis, transfer money from a TIF account to your general fund account. So there's actually quite a bit more flexibility in this than I think either of us thought. So we're still of the opinion that this is a good idea moving forward. We're just working out some of the details on what we can and can't spend this money on, what roads and sidewalks would be eligible and what wouldn't. And with that, I see Councilor Frankie has his hand up.
Councilor Frankie?
Well, just to note that there could be a substantial amount of revenue involved in this district. So I think it behooves us to take a little time and figure out exactly what kind of projects we want to include in the tax increment financing district. There are a number of things that the city desperately needs to do, and that it could really use for some more economic development. So I think that I do think that we need a little more discussion before we head down this road.
Yeah, and I was in one of those. Go ahead, Councilor Klepak.
No, go on.
So I was in one of those meetings with you guys when we sat down and we discussed it. And Eric, you and I have talked about seeing any and every which way we can sort of find money to redo some roads and sidewalks in the south end and surrounding neighborhoods. I think that once we nail this down, it's going to be good for us, our city. I do like the idea that we can switch back and forth, which is not something that we've done even when I was on the council. We didn't know that we could do something like that. I think that's a pretty neat little way to help us from year to year.
That's actually what my question is about. So when that happens, say we were to transfer whatever, 500 grand or something into the general fund on a given year, is that going to affect the valuation of the city? Or is is that money still under the beneficial protection of the TIF?
No. So it will affect us, but to my understanding, it affects us for like 1 or 2 years and then goes back to normal. So it's not a long-term effect.
Eric, do you want to touch on that?
Right, it would depend on how, if it's a 1-year thing where we transfer money out, then yes, I believe there's some paperwork that the city assessor needs to do to the state, and they would redo our valuation. And I don't think it would actually hit us until 2 or 3 years later, and then it would just be a temporary hit based on how many years and how much money we were to transfer out of the TIF. Frankly, I think we're going to find plenty of ways to spend this money under the eligible uses of the TIF funds. Mm-hmm. But it is good to know that we have that flexibility should it come up in the future. You know, that say we find ourselves in another emergency and we need some general fund money to offset a tax increase. We would have that flexibility. And it would be a short-term hit on our valuation and how that might affect revenue sharing moving forward.
Councilor Klepak and then Mike.
So to follow up on that, Mike, is there a potential downside given this new understanding of the ability to transfer from one account to another to having such a large TIF?
It's hard to say on that question without looking further into the accounting of it, how it's accounted for, and then like Councilor Thomas said, what does our assessor have to do to certify to the state how much of the TIF money we actually kept in a TIF fund and how much we put into the general fund. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. I thought your question was more to the question of, can we use TIF monies in a reserve, keep them in a TIF reserve, and have them there when we need them? For instance, the renovation of Concourse. Can we put TIF money in an account for 2 years, save it up, and then do it? I think the answer to that is yes, right, Eric?
That's actually my second question that I didn't ask yet, but yes.
That is correct. We found out that we don't have to spend it all, that we can actually put it aside in an account that we can use for other projects down the road. So let's say there's, I mean, when they did the
how long is that road?
Yeah, or like you want the Concourse going to cost us $1 million, so you decide to reserve some of that TIF money for 2 or 3 years to pay for it, and then you just write a check.
Or conversely, we can borrow money and use the TIF money to pay off a bond. So if there's a larger project that we want to take on, we'd have a funding source moving forward to make the bond payment. And then I would also remind everyone, because there is, I know people, one, they see Colby, two, they see TIF, and they're sort of looking for the smoke and mirrors here. There's nothing hidden here. There's no money, no money goes back to Colby. We have complete control over this district. The other fact of the matter is that at any point, if a future council decides that this TIF district isn't serving a purpose anymore, they can always get rid of it, or shorten the term, or shorten the amount, or change the amount of money that we capture. Because there's no credit enhancement agreement with a developer, it gives us the flexibility at any time the city sees fit to amend the structure of this TIF.
Yeah, even further than money not going back to Colby. In fact, money is coming from Colby into city coffers, and what the TIF is doing is protecting the city from that bolus of money and allowing the city to use it more wisely without it affecting our valuation and the money we're getting from the state for the schools. It's sort of a win, because let's say, just for an easy number to follow, let's say it's $1 million in TIF money, 350,000 of that or so would have gone to the state. We would have lost that anyway. So we would have only kept about $650,000. Now we get to keep all of it. None of it goes to the state. None of it goes to school. It literally stays here in a way that we can help residents not spend so much money. How long can money sit in I don't know, can it be a rainy day fund for, TIF expenditures? How long can TIF money languish?
I think it can languish for the amount of the TIF. I'm not sure on that, but I think if the TIF is 30 years, you can hold on to it for.
I think that's a good question that we'd want to ask before we get too far down the road about reserving the funds.
Councilor Frankie?
Well, if you go down the TIF route, I think it's more a matter of having the projects in mind that you want to develop. For instance, later in the meeting, we're going to be talking about a proposal from the Federal Reserve Bank in Boston to do a serious amount of redevelopment of the Kennebec corridor. I don't want to get too far ahead of us here, Mike, but
right.
That's the kind of thing that could lend itself to TIF financing. So what I'm driving at is if we've got some ideas about things that are going to develop and move Waterville ahead, this is going to be a serious amount of money for us to be thinking about spending there.
And just Rick, and then I guess we'll go to a roll call for this.
I got one last thing, Jay.
Go ahead, Rick. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I just want to assure residents that first and foremost, our priority for this money is going to be to fix roads and sidewalks. Certainly that's my goal. And yes, what Councilor Frankie is speaking to is also another use. But what I want to assure people is we're not going to go too far afield looking for things to spend the money on until we take care of our house and take care of the roads and sidewalks.
Well, and beyond that, there's the benefit of the TIF structure itself in terms of actually protecting taxpayers in the city of Waterville, who may not be, the whole idea of a TIF is to promote economic development. We have this massive development that has come in downtown, but the tax base in the city is not prepared to absorb that rapid an increase in the net value of the city, and in terms of the relationship we have with the state and the county. And this is going to give the tax base in Waterville a chance in a sheltered way to catch up with this massive investment that has just been made in downtown, and enable us to use that money for real infrastructure to actually improve the physical environment of Waterville. I mean, that's the way I understand it.
Yes, and one last point, which is the discussion that's gone on over the years about Colby and possibly getting them to contribute to our operating budget. I mean, this is the advantage of the route that they have taken, is that not only have we seen $100 million investment in the downtown, but they or whoever they may in the future sell these properties to is going to be paying taxes on these properties in perpetuity, and they're committed to that. And the opposite route could have been that they were like, no, we don't want to spend all this money on development. We'll give you some money for your budget, but we wouldn't have had the improvements downtown, and they could have at any time changed their mind about giving us money. This way they have made this huge investment, spurred other investment, and they are now, going to be one of the largest taxpayers in Waterville. And there's no walking away from that, because all of a sudden one year they decide they don't have the money. So this is, I think, the long game that may have been missed over the last few years, with people going after Colby and wanting them to put money right into Waterville's budget. Like, that's essentially what they're doing, but they're doing it in a better way because they're making a long-term investment in the town that makes them be committed to paying that year after year.
And the way we're doing it, we get to keep more of it. Phil, there's no public discussion on this one because they're going to table it. If I'm not mistaken. If not, Patty, let me know.
Well, we had a motion on the floor, but we didn't have a second to table it.
Well, and we're having discussion. So if somebody wants to say something, the more chances we have to discuss.
Go ahead, Phil.
Well, I thank you, Councilor Thomas. I actually wanted to thank you for your comment, because when I was listening, it was a lot of spending, and not really trying to specifically earmark the money for something like infrastructure or our roads and our sidewalks, and also making sure that the tax burden of the constituents, is kind of lessened. I think that's the things that we should be focusing on using our money on, instead of finding new ways to spend money. We run into budget issues all the time. And now that we found a way to have money that is already there, we should not be looking at new ways to spend it, and looking at actually things that are already there, how we can lessen the tax burden of people of the city and also fix our roads and our sidewalks. So thank you for your comment, Councilor Thomas.
And so again, we have a motion to table, but no second.
I'll second.
Oh, sorry, Rick. I didn't see your hand up. Go ahead. Nope.
Well,
All right.
good. What I was going to take care of.
We get a second. Patty, can I get a roll call?
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Oliveira,
Yes.
Council Klepak.
Yep.
Council Green. Council Green.
Yes.
Thank you. Council Foss,
Yep.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
On to new business. Resolution 16, 2021.
A resolution providing for amendment to host fee agreement.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any council? Well, go ahead, Mike. And then I'll move.
Okay, if I can give just a little bit of background
And then I'll move
info.
to the council.
All right, because Bill Lee and I have spent a lot of time on this issue over the last 2 to 3 weeks. At first, I thought we were going to ask that you table it tonight, but I'm now recommending that you take a vote to approve the host fee agreement. This is in regards to Lot 6 in the Airport Road subdivision that Pine Tree Waste wants to purchase. The council's already voted to approve the sale of that lot, and that sale was contingent upon agreeing on a host fee agreement.
Yep.
And so we're at that point. Pine Tree Waste and the City of Waterville agree on the host fee agreement. And I would encourage you to take that vote tonight to have that approved for a signature at some point in the future.
So,
and by that I mean,
go
ahead. Well, I was just going to end by saying, by that I mean, we still need to work out one critical question, but by having the sale of the lot's already been approved, this host fee agreement has to also be approved as part of the sale, but that doesn't mean we have to sign it. Doesn't mean the city manager has to sign it right off until we get the question resolved about whether they can go ahead and in fact connect the two lots, their transfer station lot and this new lot 6. So I tried to be brief.
Anywhere in this amendment, in the host fee agreement, have we discussed the possibility of possibly offloading our trash collection to them as part of these fees?
Well, we have a signed contract with the landfill in Norridgewock, a 5-year contract. I'm not sure, I don't remember what year we're in, Jay, but we first have to deal with that and find out if we wanted to send our waste to the transfer station.
I'm talking about collection in general, like the city.
Oh, yes, we've talked with Pine Tree Waste in the last few months about collection and would they be willing to give us a bid? And they said this, is this going to be like the last 3 times? You asked us to give us a bid and then you decided to keep doing it?
I guess it depends on how much they want to charge us.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I would like to see our host fees. I'd like to see if again, I ran on saying that businesses that wanted to be in Waterville should want to partner with Waterville for the benefit of our citizens and the employees of their company. So if there's a way that we can come to an agreement with them where they will collect our trash for a reasonable fee and we can get out of the collection business and get rid of purple bags and whatever else that we like to do, I think that we could have that discussion. Counselor Thomas?
Well, this is a discussion that Councilor Morris and I initiated with Public Works a couple of months ago. We decided to put it on hold until the new city manager came in. But we'll be examining everything to do with our trash collection again. I'd be careful.
This won't preclude us, correct? Like, you're not going to sign this and then we won't be able to negotiate some sort of deal like that.
No, this has really nothing to do with our own trash collection. This is a company that's already operating in Waterville, and this is for their own operations. The changes they're making may make them able to give us a better price than they could have in the past. That is entirely possible, although I don't want to go too far on that. But we are going to be looking at everything we do with our trash collection, which could involve privatizing. It could involve the city continuing to do trash collection, but switching to 4 days instead of 5, so Monday holidays aren't as big a deal as they have been in the past.
Yep.
I'd be careful. I don't think there's much chance, even if we go to a private hauler, we're likely going to stick with the purple bags, because if you don't, you're going to have a lot of trash come back into the system that we currently aren't collecting. But that will certainly be part of the discussion. But again, it's really, they are sort of tangentially related, but this issue is not going to tie our hands on anything we want to do with our own trash.
And that's what I want to make sure. I want to make sure that we weren't tied from making those sorts of negotiations later on down the road.
No.
Good. Councilor Klepak, I see your hand is up.
So I have a couple questions for Bill, but before I ask them, I'm going to say that this, as I understand it, this is actually quite upsetting to me, because initially when I voted with the rest of the council to approve the sale with their amendment to the hosting fee, it was contingent upon the 6.7 acres of wetlands that they demanded be included in this deal for free, that they would be protected and that they would be an equal steward of this land to the city. And now they're asking for a change so that this chunk of land, which supposedly this wetlands that they were supposedly going to be protecting and preserving, they want to now use it to get connectivity between the two parcels, their existing parcel and the one in the sale. The question I have for Bill is, if we approve this amendment to the hosting fee, what leverage do we have? What is the city relinquishing? What leverage do we have to make sure that that Pine Tree is actually being the proper steward of this wetlands, this natural resource? And then the second question I have for you is, I'm aware of a covenant between the city of Waterville and the Maine DEP dating back to 1999, in which the city of Waterville is responsible for stewardship over that wetlands in perpetuity. And so what is the liability of the city if we are in breach of that because they don't implement their vision correctly?
The conservation declaration on the property runs to the owner of the property. We're the owner of it at the present time, so we have to honor it. If we sell the property, then whoever the new purchaser is subject to that protective covenant. And as far as what leverage or what guarantee do we have that the wetlands will be properly protected, that protection is contained in that protective covenant, and nothing can be done with that property unless the DEP, if you want to do anything with it other than the way it is right now, you have to get the permission of the Maine DEP. So that's where the actual leverage is. If that protective covenant is violated by the owner of the property, whether it be the city or if it's a subsequent purchaser, then it would be the subsequent purchaser violates that. The violator is subject to conjunctive relief, is subject to having to pay legal fees, is subject to having to restore the property to its prior condition, and on and on and on. So there's plenty of leverage to ensure that the property is environmentally protected, and that enforcement mechanism comes through the Maine DEP.
So although there is leverage, the city is relinquishing it and putting the burden upon the DEP for that enforcement, and we're sort of stepping out of the game.
Well, the way the agreement was written, and it goes back to 1999, it basically says the city or its successors and assigns, meaning whoever it may transfer the property to, whoever owns it is subject to this recorded protective covenant. While we own it, we're responsible. Once we sell it, we have no direct control over what somebody does with another property, but the Maine DEP has all the authority in the world to enforce the recorded protective covenant.
And would that require an environmental impact statement, or what level of assessment would the DEP require for that parcel?
Well, right now, what it says is it remains the way it is, other than being able to remove a tree that falls down within the property. There's not really much that can be done with it. If anything is going to be done with it, it requires the permission from Maine DEP. So if somebody decided, for example, in this case, if the new owner decided he wanted to connect property A to property B and have some sort of a roadway that went through there, that cannot be done unless the DEP approves. And if the DEP approves, I'm sure it would have whatever conditions are necessary to make sure you don't interrupt the flow of water, you don't have improper runoff, and so forth and so on. All the things that the DEP is supposed to enforce.
So my feeling on this is that I do understand that there's been a lot of work. I really appreciate all the work that Mike and Bill have done on behalf of the city and all the other people to make this deal work out. I would like some more clarity from Pine Tree personally. I'd like to hear from them a much more clear statement about what their intentions for the land are, what their plans for the land are. Yeah, Mike.
And in regards to that, I wanted to make sure to ask Bill this question. If the council approves the host fee agreement tonight, we're under no obligation to follow through with the actual sale, because at the present time, at the time they started talking to us at the very beginning, there was no purchase and sale agreement ever signed. So you can approve the host agreement tonight. We can go to Pine Tree Waste and say, okay, we have the opportunity to move forward, but we're not going to do that unless we know what your plans are. So why don't you tell us exactly what they are? Because they really didn't do that well at the beginning. And I agree with you, Tom, that is a reason for being upset. The other thing I just wanted to correct quickly is the 6.75 acres that you mentioned before. It is not the size of the wetland. The 6.75 acres is that separate parcel. And the actual connection from the transfer station to the new lot would actually, I think, be from the transfer station lot. So they would not be crossing the 6.75 acre parcel to make that connection. As I understand it today, they'd want to go right from the transfer station, cross the wetland to the new lot, and that wouldn't involve that other 6.75 acre parcel.
Okay.
No?
And
No, go ahead.
And the wetland buffer between those two parcels is also a part of the DEP covenant dating to 99?
Yeah, that wetland buffer covenant actually goes all the way along the back of all of those lots, all of the lots. And so if they decided they wanted to make the connection from the 6.75 acre parcel, they'd have to cross the same wetland area that they would in the adjoining parcel.
Yeah. So, to me, my question is, are they planning to pave that whole area, or is it going to be simply a culvert with a road over it, a little bridge, or what? What are they actually doing? And I guess my alarm comes from the not particularly straightforward way that Pine Tree has been dealing with the city. I haven't been directly involved in the negotiations, but from my perspective, initially there was threats of moving to Fairfield if we don't acquiesce to their terms, and then this gets dropped on us sort of last minute. So
I would assume that a lot of that is all negotiations. People say all manner of things while they're negotiating contracts and deals to gain any sort of leverage. I'm not sure that that's sort of out of the realm of what they would do. I believe that you are entitled to all of that information that you're seeking. I'm not sure that voting on this is going to preclude you from getting that information or being able to vote no later on down the road. Doesn't this take 2 votes?
If I may add something.
Go ahead, Bill.
If you notice the language of the proposed amendment to the host fee agreement, in the recital states that Pine Tree has purchased the lot. While you may authorize the city manager to execute this agreement is not going to get executed until there is an executed purchase and sale agreement for the property itself. And quite simply, if this is going to happen, you're going to see a deed transfer and the execution of this host fee agreement occurring at the same time. There will be language put in the purchase and sale agreement explaining that, because Pine Tree is not going to buy this property without the host fee agreement. But we don't want to sign the host fee agreement unless they're going to buy the property. So the two are going to happen at the same time. And that'll be at some point in the future, which all you're doing here is you're authorizing this agreement to be executed when the appropriate time comes. And the agreement by its terms says that Pine Tree has purchased the property. So we're not going to, if Mike Roy decided tomorrow morning, well, actually, I'm not sure of Mike's status, but if the city manager decided to tomorrow wanted to sign this property, I would be yelling loud and clear, you cannot sign that, because by its very terms, it says that the lot has been purchased and it has not yet been purchased. So all that's taking place here, when you voted to authorize the sale, that's all you did. You authorized it, but there's been no purchase and sale agreement signed yet. Until there is a purchase and sale agreement signed, no one's under any obligation to sell or any obligation to buy. But this will, approving the amendment to the host fee, will then just be the second step in moving this forward. And it would seem to me that it's going to take some time if Pine Tree, in fact, wants to put some type of a crossing in. I expect that we can get more details on that. Just so you understand, the fact that this is signed doesn't obligate the city to sell the property. It's already authorized it. It doesn't compel it to do anything because there's been no purchase and sale agreement signed yet. Pine Tree tomorrow could say, we don't want to buy the property. And if it did, there's nothing we can do about it because there's no signed purchase and sale. All we're doing is authorizing these things to happen if, in fact, both parties decide to go forward.
Councillor Thomas and then Councillor Frankie.
One, I would just be careful because none of us have been in the room talking to Pine Tree about characterizing things that they said as threats. I think that was
that was the word he used. That was the word that their representative used.
That was not their representative. That was our representative. And I think it was he later said it was a mischaracterization of their opinion. I would just be careful about, negotiating and making people aware of what your options are not necessarily threats. So I would just be careful about that. Two, I would say, whatever they want to do with this property, chances, I doubt the city's going to put more stringent, requirements on them than DEP is. So I mean, I would guess if what they need to, anything they want to do to this property needs to be approved by DEP, I would guess we're going to find it satisfactory if DEP finds it satisfactory. But
Councilor Frankie?
I just am wondering why the urgency to move ahead with this part of the deal without, before we've got the land purchase deal finalized. It seems to me like it ought to all be one package.
One won't happen without the other. I think Bill Lee tried to explain that a little while ago. They sort of go hand in hand. They won't be able to purchase till they have a semblance of a fee agreement in place, and then they can execute on the purchase. Am I correct, Bill?
Yeah, I wouldn't be recommending that the city sign a purchase and sale agreement that says that we are going to sign a host fee agreement unless you've authorized the execution of the host fee agreement.
Gotcha. Thank you.
The two are you cannot separate them. The two have to go together.
Councilor Foss?
I really just want to echo Councilor Thomas's sentiment. This back and forth of threats, blah, blah, blah. This is much like a car sales. We all do it. We want the best deal. A business wants their best deal. And sometimes, you know, the words, we have to be mindful that they are in business to make money, just like we are. You know, as a municipality, we want to make sure that we get the best deal. But you know, to go along with Councilor Thomas's DEP regulations, yeah, I'm pretty sure that if they want to drop a road in there, DEP is pretty much going to be all over them. So I'm good to go with this and moving this to a vote.
The declaration on the property, the conservation declaration, is worded extremely strongly. The limitations that are placed upon doing anything with the property are extremely detailed. I reviewed it today.
Councilor Green, before Thomas, give me a second. Councilor Green, you had your hand up. You're muted.
What concerns me is that, as I understand it, we're renegotiating this host fee agreement on the basis that there's going to be a lot of, there's going to be a building on that lot. And therefore, I don't know, it goes to the question of what are their plans, you know, because now I do, they're trying to minimize their liability to us, obviously, by reducing the host fee agreement. But I would like some more clarity on what exactly they do plan to do with the new lot they're purchasing and their intent regarding connecting the lots.
And just to be clear, the way the agreement reads, there's no reduction in their host fee unless they register vehicles in Waterville and or actually put a building up there, because any reduction is based on those amounts are. So if they don't do either of those things, they're going to continue to pay us exactly the same amount they have been.
Right, I understand that, yes. But the other thing is that they, you know, they did ask us to give us the extra parcel of land with the understanding that they weren't going to develop it, and now they're saying that they want to connect it through. So that just does give me pause.
The mayor?
Bill Lee, then Councilor Foss.
Yeah, the connection, if in fact Pine Tree got DEP approval to make a connection between the two lots, it would not pass over that 6.75 acre of land. It would go directly from its present location to lot 40. It would be no, it'd be some big loop way out and around if you tried to pass through the 6.75 acres. It just go in a straight line from where they are to lot 40, and that does not go through the 6.75.
That's right. That's right. As far as we know today, That's their plan, is to go direct, as Bill said, from the transfer station to the new lot.
Well, there's no way that the DEP is going to allow some road to go meandering through wetlands to get to from point A to point B. If the DEP were even to allow that the connection to be made, it's going to make it the shortest possible one.
I would think so.
No other possibility would make any sense.
Councillor Foss, then we're going to move to community comment.
Let's not forget that if my memory serves me right, they had won the Winslow contract. So not only are we getting the host fees for what they're currently transferring, but we're also going to be moving a lot more tonnage through there with the expansion. They're not putting this in there just to make just the money that they're making right now, which turns into host fees for us down the road. So that's all I got to say about that.
I'm not opposed to I want the deal to work. I certainly do. I just felt a little bit blindsided about the wetland impact on the whole transaction. Is this going to come before us again in any fashion? So you're saying, Bill was saying that nothing is finalized until the John Hancock and Jill Hancock is on the dotted line on the bottom of the contract. Is this going to come in front of the council in any other manner?
If with the authorization to execute the host fee agreement and the prior authorization to sell the property for the price negotiated, it would not legally be required to come back before the property transferred and the host agreement was actually executed. However, having said that, the council can request for the city administration to come back before the council to update it on the status of having some sort of a crossing over that wetland area. I mean, realize it's possible that the Pine Tree Waste could look at the cost once it negotiates with DEP and decide it doesn't want to do that and just it's not going to cross it at all. But there's nothing to prevent the council from saying, hey, we're going to approve this tonight. It's going to take some time because they've got to go before the DEP, but we want you to come back before us and just give us an update and as things develop.
And any proposed development up there would have to go through the site plan review process with the planning board as well. So when they get to the point of actually building something, the planning board will get to have their say about the site plan, which includes environmental impacts.
I think the DEP will be your backstop. I think that they're not. I feel as though the DEP is going to have a lot of what Councillor Fleetpack wants. And they're not going to let them be able to do anything like cross right over the wetlands. Can we open this up to community comments? I see Mr. Mosley.
I just wanted to say thank you to Councillor Klepak, because as a constituent, like without a great deal of environmental knowledge, but who cares about the environment, especially in our town, thank you for those questions, because I now know a lot more about this deal than I think would have happened had you not asked those questions. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Any other comments from the community? Seeing none. Patty, can I get a roll call?
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Olivera,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green, Council Green.
Yes.
Thank you. Council Foss,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to resolution 17, 2021.
A resolution providing for appointing citizens to various boards and committees.
Move to adopt.
Are we separating some?
We need a motion and a second first, and then we can make a motion to amend.
All right.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right.
So can we have a motion to remove the Fair Hearing Authority? And we'll vote on that separately.
So moved.
Seconded.
Can Can I do a roll call on that amendment?
Yes, please.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Councilor Oliveira,
Yes.
Councilor Klepak,
Yes.
Councilor Green,
Yes.
Councilor Foss,
Yes.
Councilor Frankie,
Yes.
Councilor Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed. So we'll
Mayor?
Patty, Billy's got his hand up. Go ahead, Billy.
Sure, just from a procedural standpoint, just for future reference, if you have the situation arise again, any counselor can ask, when you have multiple items grouped together, any counselor can ask for one to be separated, and it does not require a vote. If a single counselor asks for that, it automatically happens.
Okay,
So just for the future.
thank you.
So I would note that on the list that was provided in the council packet, one person from the Fair Hearing Authority, which apparently we're going to talk about this after, but Jessica Graham has opted not to serve on that committee. So when we're voting on the Fair Hearing Authority, we need to, that name will be removed.
And do we have another name for that, Patty?
No, I haven't heard back from the person that I reached out to.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion from the council?
May I do a roll call vote then?
Please.
Council Morris,
Excuse me,
Oh.
which part are we voting on? The
we're voting on the entire item without the Fair Hearing Authority, all the
Thank
other
you.
appointments. Thank you.
There's no, excuse me, there's no public comments? Discussion?
Do we need to have one for this?
If you were.
I don't know.
What was that? Hold on, Phil.
Oh, okay.
What was that, Thomas?
We certainly can have public comment if the public wants to make a comment.
Go ahead, Phil.
Okay, I just want to ask the Patty, for all the people who applied for positions, did everybody get an interview before the decisions were made for the ones that were selected?
No.
I don't believe so.
No. Okay. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Brad?
The assignment that you had that decided not to move forward, if you end up needing a volunteer for anything, any of those assignments, let me know. I'm happy to sit down and talk to you again.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
We had so many people that applied that we went through and looked at the people that that had applied for specific positions. I mean, for the planning board alone, we had something like 11 people and only 2 seats.
Mhm.
So because of time constraints, instead of doing it with everyone, we looked at a group of 8 or so people that wanted the planning board and picked the 2 best qualified. And we kept that we assume were going to be the most qualified and people that I thought were going to fit in specific boards. At the end of the day, the people that sit on these boards are people that I feel comfortable that I'm going to be able to work with. I added people to these boards that are completely opposed to me because I want that differing opinion. But I feel like we've got a very good, diverse group of people in all of these spots and some people that are really qualified for what they're doing. Thomas.
I'll just make a suggestion, which is that the last time I served on the council when Karen Heck was the mayor, and we would do appointments for these positions, what we would do is sit down and anyone who was going to be interviewed, it was myself, the city clerk, the city manager, and the mayor. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the council chair, but it would be nice if there was some involvement from the council since we are ultimately the ones who have to vote. And then I think it would make everyone feel better if more than one person has a chance to talk to these people before we vote on them. So, you know, and it could be different counselors for different interviews, but just so that the council feels like they're sort of more involved in the process rather than just.
I will say that for my part during this, I actually sought feedback from counselors on appointments. I sought names from people, and that's how we came up with some of the people on that are on these boards now were members of the community that some of the counselors brought forth to me. And after Patty and I went through the interview process, I sent out info to everyone else that I want, that people that I thought were good for these boards, with ample time for people, for counselors to have full input, to be able to come back to me and say, hey, we don't know about this one. How about this one? We didn't get much of that feedback at all. So that's when Patty went through and told people who we appointed, and the list got out to you. I mean, you guys had that list a week before we contacted anyone to let them know that they were picked for a board. I mean, to me, that's a lot of involvement. I mean, I tried to give everyone as much time as they could, but also be as productive. We weren't sure that I was the one that was going to do these interviews. At one time, it was going to be my predecessor that was going to do these interviews with Patty. So we sort of just went with the ball. It was kind of different territory for everyone. But going forward next year, again, I'll continue to seek input, and I hope that once I create a list that you guys, with a week's notice, can contact anyone you want to be able to ask them questions, which I was trying to do, because the last time we had an appointment for the last planning board member, Councilor Klepak had a few questions, and which were great questions. So I figured that this would give all of you time to be able on your own to go speak to anyone that was on that list. Any other counselors? Councilor Green?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to thank you, Jay, for providing the list to us ahead of time. That was really very helpful. It was also helpful to have the chance to pose some questions to the member of the planning board who was appointed. So I guess I would agree with Eric that some involvement of a council on the interview process could be quite helpful. But obviously it's different when you have a slate of 25, 30 as opposed to 1 or 2. So at least maybe for planning board, which is such an important board.
Yep. Yeah. And like I said, there were a lot of them, and one we had discussed who actually made the final cut. So that was good. Any other counselors? We've gone to community, seeing none. Patty, can I get a roll call?
So this is a vote on all the appointments without the Fair Hearing Authority, just to clarify.
Yes.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Oliveira,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yep.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Foss,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed. And now do we want to do the vote on just the Fair Hearing Authority?
Yes.
So now I would make a motion to remove Jessica Graham from the list.
Yep.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Is there, so I need a vote on that. Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Oliveira,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council Thomas.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
I would move the slate as amended.
Second.
Okay.
Is there a roll call on that?
Yep. Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Oliveira,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed. So at this point, Mayor, if you will allow me, I can read the names of the people on this list. I want to be sure of everyone that's still in attendance and can take the oath via Zoom. I will do the oaths in a group. So I just want to be sure of who's still in attendance.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So for the Airport Advisory Committee, we have Patrick Moore. I believe Patrick Moore is still on.
Yes.
Thank you. Heath Dunn. I don't believe Heath Dunn is on. Brandon Gilly is on, I believe. Is Brandon Gilly still on?
I don't see Brandon.
Okay. Ryan Tibbetts, this is for the Board of Assessment Review. Brandon Gilly and Ryan Tibbetts. I believe Ryan Tibbetts is on.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. The Board of Zoning Appeals, Patrick Moore is on. Heath Dunn is not on. Ryan Tibbetts is on.
Yes.
Ethics Committee, Catherine Smanik. I believe Catherine is on.
Yes.
And Michael Mosley is on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
For the Fair Hearing Authority, Erica Bernardini, I don't believe she's on. And Rebecca Foss is on.
Yes.
Yes.
Haynes Charity Relief Committee, Pamela Merrill is not on. Kennebec Sanitary Treatment District Trustees, Kevin Gorman.
Yes.
Thank you. Luke Brooks Schessler. Don't believe Luke
I don't see Luke.
No. Thomas Shattuck. For the Planning Board, Hillary Koch. I believe Hillary is on. Hi, Hillary.
I'm here.
David Johnson, I believe, is on.
Yes.
Thank you. Public Library Trustees, Deep Achara, I believe, is on.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Margie Knight. Is Margie on?
I don't see that name.
No. Daniel Bollier. William Layton.
Heath is connecting right now.
Yes, I just saw Heath Dunn. Heath, are you on?
His mic is off.
I did see him sign on. Heath Dunn, are you on?
There, can you hear me, Patty?
Yes, thank you. So Heath is being appointed to the Airport Advisory Committee and also the Board of Zoning Appeals. Thank you. We'll be administering the oath momentarily. So now we're on to the TIF Advisory Committee. Brad Hollowell is on, I believe.
Yep.
Yep.
Willis Smedberg is on. Or was.
Oh, yep, there he is.
There he is. And Luke Brooks Schessler.
Still not on.
Okay. The Voter Registration Appeals Board, Ron Merrill is not on. Waterville Housing Authority, Paul Jakes is not on. Waterville Sewerage District Commission, John Hamlin is not on. Okay, so thank you. So I will administer the oath of office to the committee members in bulk. And let me get that oath language momentarily. So if all of the folks that are being sworn in could please raise their right hands and take your mics off, unmute yourselves, I would say, and please repeat after me. I, and state your name.
I,
Hillary Koch.
Do affirm.
Do affirm.
That I will faithfully discharge.
That I will faithfully discharge.
That I will faithfully discharge.
To the best of my abilities.
To the best of my abilities.
The duties incumbent on me.
The duties incumbent on me and on me.
As a duly appointed member.
As a duly appointed
member.
Of the committee.
Of the committee.
To which I have been appointed.
Which I have been appointed.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to you all, and thank you for coming forward and your willingness to serve the city.
Yes, thank you. I had a good time talking to all of you, and I appreciate what you're going to bring to the table to help the citizens of the city. Rebecca, you have your hand up or you're clapping?
Laughing.
All right. Next on the agenda is resolution 19, 2021.
Actually, we're on 18, and that is appointment of the city
Oh,
clerk
gotcha.
as registrar of voters.
Move to adopt.
Second.
I was trying to shorten the meeting, guys. Sorry.
Can't skip Patty.
Never skip Patty. Patty keeps us all going.
Shall I do a roll call vote?
Please.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Councilor Oliveira,
Yes.
Councilor Klepak,
Yes.
Councilor Green,
Yes.
Councilor Foss,
Yes.
Councilor Frankie,
Yes.
Councilor Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed. On to resolution 19.
You're muted, Jay.
Sorry, I said that, but I was muted. But
That's
yes,
okay.
19, 2021.
A resolution providing for approval of city manager employment contract.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any comment from the council? Councilor Frankie.
I just would like to note, give special thanks to Councilor Morris and former Mayor Isgrove for keeping us focused on this task. We had planned finishing our work by January 1st, but in spite of the pandemic roadblocks, we're only 10 days short of our goal. And it's I think in large part thanks to Mike and Nick for keeping us moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from council? Comments from the public? All right, Patty, can I have a roll call?
Council Morris,
Yes.
Councilor Oliveira,
Yes.
Councilor Klepak,
Yep.
Councilor Green,
Yes.
Councilor Foss,
Absolutely yes.
Councilor Frankie,
Yes.
Councilor Thomas.
I'm abstaining from this vote just because, as everyone knows, I was a candidate, so I wasn't involved in the interviewing process, so it doesn't feel right for me to vote yea or nay. So I'm just going to abstain, but I want to be clear that I support the council's decision, and the new city manager will certainly have my full support and cooperation moving forward.
So the vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Welcome aboard, Steve. You can unmute. There you go.
Thank you very, very much. I'm honored by your decision, and I'm eager, very eager to join the team and work with Mike through a transition and then work with all of you moving forward. It's going to be an exciting time.
I was in doing some stuff in my office. When you get to yours, we'll go out and have lunch and create a cup.
Are we going to have mac and cheese?
I mean, we don't have to. There's plenty of things that we can eat. It doesn't have to be mac and cheese, and we can go anywhere you want in the city. It's got to be in the city.
Agreed.
All right. All right. Patty, moving on to resolution 2021.
A resolution providing for employment extension for city manager.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion from the council? Does that mean we're Councilor Frankie?
I think we've already been over this ground. When we started the process, we more or less assumed that we would get Mike to overlap a little bit just to get the new city manager off and rolling on the right foot.
So we got Mike for how long now?
4 weeks.
A couple more weeks, I might.
Till the end of the month.
If we're going to lunch, Mike, you're buying. All right. Any public discussion? Go to a roll call, Patty.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Oliveira,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Foss,
Mike, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to ordinance 21, 2021.
An ordinance providing for amendment to zoning.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion from the council? Seeing none, I'll move. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, Patty, I'll take a roll call. Oh, sorry. I see Mr. Is it Clyde Cummings?
Yeah. I'm just kind of curious on what the zoning is. Is there names attached to this, or because we've been waiting for a while to talk about zoning, but I don't know if this is about us or not. Half Pints Daycare trying to change from. I see Patty shaking her head.
Yes,
so.
this is for Half Pints Daycare to open a daycare center at 155 Kennedy Memorial Drive.
Okay, yeah, that's what I just curious because we just said zoning and we weren't sure if it was us or not.
Yep.
It is you, sir.
Jay?
Yes, Bruce.
Yeah, just so you know, this came from the planning board with a 6-0 vote in favor of this.
Okay. Oh. Sure. All right, Patty, can I get a roll call?
Yes. Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Oliveira,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Foss,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
That brings us on to counselor updates. Eric.
I just wanted to say thank you quickly to the council for voting me in for another year as the council chair. I know we're going to have we have a lot of new faces, including a new city manager. And so we're all going to be, I think, working to get everyone up to speed on everything and how we've gotten to where we are over the last few years. And I think we're really lucky to be in the situation we're in, where Mike will be around for a while longer. Plus, let's face it, Mike's not going anywhere. He's going to be in Waterville. So we'll always have him as a resource. And so I'm looking forward to working with this group of counselors and the new city manager and Mike as needed and the new mayor. And I think it's going to be a great year, and I'm hoping we're going to have some big accomplishments. And 2020 was a tough year, but I think the city's going to come out of it stronger than we were before, and probably better than any of us expected. So I'm looking forward to 2021.
Any other counselor updates? Oh, Counselor Frankie.
Yes, I'd just like to ask Mike Roy how the city's holding, city staff is holding up in light of the dramatic rise in the pandemic here in Maine in the past few weeks.
Yes, thank you for asking. We ran really a long time without any signs of any of our employees contracting the virus. That ended this fall. So since the fall, we've had 5 employees that have tested positive. Fortunately, all 5 were not in direct contact with a large group of other city employees. There was no one in City Hall that got the virus, and the others were all in a situation safe enough where it didn't cause any issues. Just over the weekend, in responding to a call, fire department and police department, fire department folks were very geared up. Police department, not so much. It ended up the patient has COVID, and so we're taking some extra precautions with the police. just to be sure those who were on the scene were not exposed, and we're going to be testing them to be sure. So that's been the worry all along, is that with police, fire, dispatch, public works, now that we're in the middle of winter, is to make sure that if any of them contract the virus, that they're immediately quarantined and separated out from the workforce, because you certainly don't want to lose half your fire department or half the police. And I think that's what our department heads have done so well all the way through from March until the fall. When the fall came, the numbers just overwhelmed us, as it did for everyone, but not to the point where we had to close City Hall or other public buildings, because I've got to say our employees, I think, did an outstanding job all the way through. And even with the 5 that we had, we've managed all of those 5. They were all pretty much in the past. Now, the only immediate concern is those police officers over the weekend. Fortunately, with Sean Essler, fire chief, leading the way, we were able to get testing. So we're going to be able to do testing for some of those. So thank you for asking. I think we're in good shape. And I'm confident that the employees, department heads are going to stay vigilant.
John?
Thank you, Mayor. I hope it's not inappropriate to insert a little bit of dialogue here, but I just wanted to take the opportunity to mention, 2 names specifically. The COVID has been a challenge for all of us, whether it be individual at home, whether it be running a business, or of course, public safety or running the city. And, our city manager, Mike, has really been at the forefront, and us department heads have felt extremely supported this entire time. And quite honestly, we've contained this from becoming a much larger issue as a result of Mike's leadership. So I wanted just to take the opportunity. I know he doesn't get a lot of credit for some of the stuff he does, to just throw it out there and say he's done an amazing job, making sure that this hasn't, gotten out of control. And the second individual is Dr. Pei, who's the fire department medical director. I'm in contact with him at least every other day, if not every day, working on COVID issues that we're presented with. And he's been amazing. He's been available to the city. And eventually, when we get through this, I'd like to bring to your attention, the work that he's done as well. So I really appreciate the city manager's work, and of course, Dr. Pei in supporting our COVID response. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean, for that.
Thank you, Sean.
Any other council updates? All right, moving on to community notes. Any community notes? Anybody from the public? Seeing none, I'll move to the manager's report.
All right. I have 2 items. The first one is an exciting one, potentially exciting. It's the information I forwarded to you today, called the Working Communities Challenge Grant Program. It's something that we applied for in December, I believe, and Garvin Donegan, I see, is with us tonight. He can answer any questions you have. I know Councilor Green, and I'm sorry, was it Councilor Frankie also involved in the Working Communities Challenge Grant part at the beginning, along with a number of other community people. Waterville Creates, Kobe, the city planner was involved. And so when that application was submitted back in December, we were asking to be considered for inclusion in the program. So we got the message just recently, and I sent you a copy of that announcement, that we're invited into the final group of 6. Is that correct, Garvin? 6?
We've been invited in to essentially apply, and thank you for that, Mike. So we are kind of entering a more competitive process right now. It's fair to say multiple municipalities and organizations currently applying, but it will get whittled down to a number close to that, as you state.
And so this is for a planning grant. Want to make sure people understand the difference between planning and implementation. So this planning grant, and I guess I would just like to read to you quickly what the project aim, the project mission is. And so, quote, along the low-income band of the Kennebec River, encompassing the south end, downtown, and the north end, the Waterville Corridor Project will capture recent growth and population trends to successfully transition our post-mill economy by focusing on collaborative housing initiatives, place-based economics, and driving connectivity between urban cores and residential neighborhoods. So it's focused on a specific section of the community. That's what the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, who sponsors this program, wanted to see is initiatives directed towards specific communities, neighborhoods and communities. And that's what this one proposes to do. So we have until January 31st to come up with a final application to be asked into the next round or the next step of the process. And so Garvin, we agreed to try to schedule for a week from today, the 12th, a working session of all the parties that have been involved up until this point. And it would be at 4:30 on Tuesday, a week from today. Zoom call. You're going to coordinate that, Garvin?
Yes, that's correct, Mike. And those invitations have gone out. Folks can find applicable information by contacting me directly or navigating to our website, centralmaine.org/Waterville-corridor-project. I do believe some of you have already received some advanced materials as well. And, Mike, if it's all right, my apologies for stepping on you, and thank you for that. And just really quickly, good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, members of the public, and congratulations to Steve, the new appointees. Just a real quick thumbnail sketch on this is the intent of the program is to advance local collaborative efforts that build strong, healthy ecosystems and communities within Maine's rural towns and regions and small cities. This initiative spun out of an existing program with the Boston Fed and has since emerged in Maine late in 2020. And yes, thank you, Councilors Frankie and Councilor Green, whose keen eye saw this, I think, back in actually November. And essentially, the initiative aims to support local teams working to improve economic outcomes. And this is a Federal Reserve Bank of Boston program with partnership with the state of Maine, as well as national and local philanthropic and private sector employees. The program has a very broad construct with regards to the types of projects and the associated initiatives. So as Mike rightly pointed out, we submitted a letter of interest on December 1 to the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. That has since gotten us past this first gate, and we've formally been invited to apply to a design grant application. That design grant application is due January 30th. And that really, if we're accepted into it, launches a potentially 3.5 year approximately length project. If we're successful on that next application phase, that is a $25,000 grant. If we're successful on the follow-up on what is being referred to as an implementation of the design grant, the city would receive $375K. This is a planning grant, as Mike notes. That's really important to note. So this is not for necessarily capital improvements or brick and mortar type projects, but for the city to design a project of interest that would have an impact and pay for example, maybe a market study, some of that technical work, et cetera, and really, frankly, let the plan drive the process a little bit there. I don't want to belabor the points here. I think we've sent out some good information. I want to leave some fun for the workshop next week But Mike also rightly points out that project area or geographical specificity is important. And as of right now, currently, as a result of current public input, interest, and feedback, the focus area is, as Mike mentioned, along the Kennebec River, south end, downtown, north end, and that is corresponding with the census tract of 024102. That is kind of the dog leg that necklaces the river, has a population of about 5,000 people, and a median income of about 18,000 per census data. So that kind of gives you a flavor of at least the census tract that we're currently talking about. Happy to answer any questions as well.
So, I'll hand it off to Councilor Klepak here in a second. I just want to point out that Garvin is usually like the faceless person behind a lot of what drives these sorts of projects and grants. And I want to thank you for the work that you do. I know that you and I have had conversations in the past couple of years. I know that you'll continue to bring more stuff to us. And I am loving the beard. I know that Mike Roy isn't going to enjoy it, but the beard, that is the way to go.
All I want is mac and cheese.
There's growing dynamic beards on the council, so you know my competitive spirit. So, but in truth, thank you to the councilors, and already some of the robust feedback that we've gotten from the public, from folks in the south end, the north end, some of our academic institutions, and Beveridge has been extremely helpful from a technical point of view, from a planning perspective, but really keen eye on some historical context. So, and that is also a representation of the importance of cross-sector involvement in any success of this initiative. The grant is relatively straightforward. However, I would not confuse that with it not being highly competitive. I do expect multiple communities or grantees submitting for all these rounds. And it's going to really narrow down to the end where only 5 will get that final planning phase. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, but also a reflection of the team.
Councilor Klepak. You're muted.
Hey, Garvin, it's nice to meet you. So a couple questions. You kind of hit on one of them. I wanted to know what often in these kind of processes, the various tiers have more or less competitiveness to them. And I was wondering whether you had a sense of what that is. I was looking at, I think I saw 8 grants for 25 grand in the design phase. That's correct. Across what geographic region?
Throughout the state of Maine.
Just the state of Maine, though, and this is not correct. New England. Yeah, okay. And is that that's going to be more competitive than just getting an invitation after the letter of interest? Hey.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would expect it to be much more competitive. I would say that the Fed did a good job doing quality control with the letter of intent, making sure people were thorough, comprehensive. They also had some authority to say, hey, Waterville, maybe you should team up with community X or community Y based on shared interests. But yes, there's a pyramid structure to the competitiveness here.
And how detailed does this, the proposal, the letter that we're going to be sending in on the 30th, does it, I guess there's going to be, we have to talk about, just how detailed does it have to be?
Yeah, good question. So, we went from a letter of intent, which was quite literally that, a letter with some simple questions in it, or answers to simple questions. The application on the 30th is straightforward. The questions are from the perspective of what is the community's long-term vision, and it is a more true application. What is the community's long-term vision and goals? What are some key project objectives? We have to list and have sign off on cross-sector involvement, who core partners are. We need to articulate something of a SWOT analysis, which is why, albeit not required, same with the workshop, that we'll be doing a little planning exercise with thinking about strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. All to say that the Fed wants us to see that we've been thoughtful. We've done an environmental scan with regards to our assets, and any project that we propose has been well thought out, well informed, and is data rich, where we can say something to the effect of, our goal is to, by doing X, we're going to result in Y, and that's going to increase, say, the median family income for this demographic or this cohort. So they really want us to begin to shape the built environment and our assets. So straightforward application, but again, not to suggest it's not competitive.
And how detailed is the Fed, their mission statement or their objectives or agenda?
Broad construct.
So there's not a lot to go off of there.
Community health, you know, socioeconomic and environmental equity type initiatives, seeing a good diversity of involvement that raises the tide, if you will, hitting on issues that are compelling and impactful for the community. You know, we're talking about housing now, as we do believe that may be an inhibitor to growth, a variety of housing, whether that's workforce housing, you know, new market rate housing, for example, and frankly, not an issue unique to us either. So I'd say broad construct, but thematically, these themes of community sustainability from an economic perspective.
Any other manager reports? Oh, Claude, go ahead.
I would just encourage all of the other counselors to attend the meeting next Tuesday and get a flavor of what actually is going into this, and really find out what the community would like from the project, and this is an opportunity to do, particularly for the new counselors, to get involved and find out what you can do to move the city forward.
Mike, is that a public meeting on Tuesday?
It will be if more than 2 counselors attend. All we have to do is let Amy know. There's nothing serious, I mean, secretive about this. I think the more people understand it, the better. Matter of fact, I sent her the information, Garvin, that you had forwarded, all the attachments, and she knows about the meeting next Tuesday. So yes, though, remember, all of you, if more than 2 counselors attend, it becomes a meeting subject to the Public of Information law.
But would you have time to advertise that now?
Yes, we would.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think two or 3 days before, isn't that, Patty, what the standard we've been holding to is a couple days, 3 days before a meeting, making sure that the Morning Sentinel is notified.
Yeah, and we could also put something out on the website. Yep. Yep.
Zoom logistics are on the website and in the applicable materials. We did send out invites now a couple of weeks ago. And again, thank you to the counselors who I know have been popping into some of the information sessions that the Boston Fed has previously held in Maine.
All right. Mike, you have anything else?
I do have one more item. That's one reason Sean Essler is here, is his report of the activities, which is really very impressive. So at least I sent it to all of you today. Again, sorry about the late notice, but I'm hoping you had a chance to look at some of it. And Sean, maybe you could give us a brief summary.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I don't want to take anybody's time. I understand it's extremely late, but this is incredibly important and something we've been working on now for a long time. In September, the council agreed to support a cooperative agreement between Delta Ambulance and Waterville Fire Department. So we have been operating an ambulance out of Central Fire Station collaboratively. And to summarize, our plan is moving forward as planned, as we projected originally. Some of the real positive outcomes that I'll just quickly outline is there's always been a perception of a duplication of service in the city, of why do we send a fire truck and an ambulance to the same call? And with our comprehensive dispatch program, we've eliminated any duplication of service, which means if a person needs only an ambulance, they get only an ambulance. If they need an ambulance and a fire truck or a set of hands, we send that. And ultimately that increases the efficiency of the department and significantly reduces the amount of wear and tear and expense to the fire department. One of the other major highlights is we now have 2 dedicated ambulances to the city. A normal day, for example, today, they had run 16 medical calls before I left. Both of my ambulances were on the road today, serving our community. And quite honestly, if we didn't have those ambulances, that would have resulted in delays. So we've seen a significant improvement in the service. And to my knowledge, we no longer have any, to my knowledge, I haven't heard of any other service coming into our community to transport patients since we implemented this program. Now, I understand that revenue is a major piece to this, but the council really needs to hear it from me that this program is so beneficial outside of revenue that even if it broke even, we would be headed in the right direction. Our staff is excellent. Our union has essentially made this possible. They've stepped to the plate, and I can't thank them enough for the work that they're doing. And quite honestly, they've taken on additional responsibility. As we look at the revenue, just to summarize briefly, as we move forward, we're gonna see about $20,000 a month in revenue out of this program, which is, although 2020 brought COVID with it, this is a record-setting year for the fire department in generating revenue. I don't know of any other year in my career that we're going to see, as much revenue as we put on the table here. So I'm super excited. I appreciate our partnership with Delta Ambulance. Executive Director Beals has been fantastic in the reporting, and I'm happy to go into any further details. But again, I don't want to, go to 10 o'clock here. So everything's performing as planned. I'm always open for questions. And specifically in the bottom of the report on the backup program, this is when we're sending an ambulance out without Delta staff on it, to support the system. And even that backup program that I originally proposed is performing above what I had proposed to the council. So thank you for the opportunity. And I'd like to thank, Councilor Morris and City Manager Mike Roy and the mayor, of course, from being on the forefront of this at the beginning, and then the council supporting it. And quite honestly, Steve, I can't wait to get you on board so we can take a look at this plan and look at the advances the fire department's made in the last couple of years and continue that momentum forward. Thank you.
So we're making money and you're helping people.
Helping people is number one.
Yes, it is.
Making money is just a bonus.
Hey, Morris.
Yes, sir.
That's all I need to say to you. Good job.
He has done a good job. He's done a better than a good job, an excellent job.
Yep.
Those are all my manager report items, sir.
That's it. Sean, send my best to all your people. We appreciate everything that they do for us. Seeing nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn? Or finish?
So moved. Second.
Good night.
Good night.
All right.